And hello, everyone. Welcome to our Trading Tech Talk. It is December 18, 2025, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. My name is Daniel. I will be your moderator today in this Tech Talk, and I am greeting you today from our beautiful office here in Montreal, in Canada. Yes, it's exciting times to us, to me personally, to all of us at Trading Indicators, because what we're going to show you today we called it the one last thing, of course, only for 2025. We have big plans for the next year as well. But it is something I personally have been looking for the entire year. And we've tested, of course, internally quite a bit. And the results that this new thing, in quotes, thing, has shown so far is nothing short of, spectacular, amazing. It has helped me with my trading success. And, I'm excited to share it. I'm excited today to share it with you guys today. But before we get into all of this, let me ask you guys, where are you calling in from? Who do we have in the room today? Please put your location into the Q&A box. Let's see, who do we have today in our room? All right, let's see. Werner from Frankfurt. Hey, Werner, you stayed up? I know it's late in Germany. Nice for you to stay up so late. David from Delaware. From Delaware. Hey, David. Stephen from Singapore. Hey, Stephen, that's awesome. What time is it now in Singapore? I must imagine it might be early morning, I think. Steffen from Hamburg. Also, Steffen. Wow, thanks for staying up as well. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Kevin from Saskatoon. Hey, Kevin, nice to see you. Richard from Red Deer, Alberta. Have I been to Red Deer? Is this near Calgary? I would imagine so, huh? Oh, maybe not. Maybe I'm confusing it. Hey, Richard, how are you? Somebody from the North Pole. Yeah, nice try. Gerald from Santa Fe. Hey, Gerald, how's it going? Bill from West Palm Beach. Hey, Bill, how's it going over there? I hope it's nice and warm in Florida. Linda from Orangeville, Ontario, near Toronto. Are you impressed by me memorizing your location, Linda? Faith from California. Hey, Faith, how are you? Rob from Melbourne, Australia. That's amazing. Hey, Rob, how are you? No, I've just been to Melbourne a couple of weeks ago. That's awesome. Mark from Birmingham, Alabama. Steven says it's 7 a.m. in Singapore. Oh boy, that's early. When I went to Singapore, when was it? When was it? I think last November, 1 year ago. I was so jet lagged. I was awake at 7 a.m. as well, but only for that reason. And Keith from Scotland near the borders to England. And we also have Larry from Maryland. Hey, Larry, how are you? Wayne from Boston, Lenny from New York City, Andrew from Perth. Oh, another Australia. What time is it is it in Australia right now? I would imagine maybe 8 o'clock or something, 9 o'clock, maybe Perth even later. Marcus from the Black Forest in Germany. Hey, Marcus, thanks for staying up. Gary from Tennessee. And Linda says good memory. All right. Well, I try. Thank you guys. So thank you guys so much for sharing your location. Let's get into it. First off, there we go. This session is being recorded and the recording will be made available shortly afterwards. So should you need to drop off, don't worry. You can always re-watch the recording. Secondly, and just as important, thank you guys so much for joining us, especially for some of you where it's very early morning or late at night. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I know your time is precious. You probably want to sleep now or perhaps enjoy a nice breakfast. Instead, you're here listening to Daniel at Trading Indicators, talking about trading and the one last thing. So this really means a lot to us. It's great recognition, and thank you guys so much. Of course, we are super excited to have you being part of our trading journey. Now, who are we? For those of you perhaps who are joining us for the very first time, well, we are tradingindicators.com. My name is Daniel. As mentioned before, I'm the guy here on the left-hand side. And about 10 years ago, we have created Trading Indicators together with Homa here in the middle, my partner of crime. And then about 5 years into our journey, maybe even 6 years, I'm not sure exactly when it was, Niklas has joined us and Niklas has become our lead developer ever since. And, as our name suggests, Trading Indicators, we specialize on, well, building trading indicators. This is really our bread and butter, and we've built thousands of trading indicators for clients all over the world, for TradingView, for NinjaTrader, Motivwave, MT4, MT5, TradeStation, MetaStock, and so forth. So we've seen it all, the good, the bad, and the really, really good. Of course, today we're going to be focusing on the exciting part of it. Most of what we do is based on what's called technical analysis, which is basically a mathematical pattern analysis of your price chart. We believe that fundamental information, first of all, are very hard to interpret because you never really know what is already priced in and what comes as a surprise to the market. And secondly, thanks to the efficiency of today's markets, fundamental information, fundamental news is almost immediately priced in and visible in your price chart. And then by analyzing your price chart from a technical point of view, you will indirectly also take into account this fundamental information. We also believe that trading should be simple, and trading is simple, but you need to know what to look for. And in this day and age where IT, the advances in IT and indicators and technology, they can do so much for you. Why shouldn't we as traders not take advantage of this? And what you're going to see today is it's a tool that we have created. I'm not going to say right now what it is yet. It's an indicator that we have created, which will help you with your trading process, and it will simplify your trading. You'll see in just a bit. All right. So with this, guys, if you have any questions, please make this tech talk your own. Put your questions into the Q&A box, and we're going to get to those as we proceed through this presentation. I also need to remind you real quick that trading does contain risk and therefore is not suited for every investor. If you trade, make sure to only use risk capital, which is money that you actually can afford to lose. When it comes to backtest performance or hypothetical performance, keep in mind that this is not necessarily indicative of future performance, and any trade ideas and strategies discussed in this webinar should not be construed as trade advice. These are for educational purposes only. All right, so with this out of the way, let's get into it. Now, if you guys remember, and I think many of you were actually there last week, we had a bootcamp session, a really comprehensive bootcamp session, where we discussed our entire ecosystem of flagship indicators. We look at our market IQ indicators, our market sentiment indicators, and our trade signal indicators. And in that session, we also pointed out, all right, there is actually in our market IQ section up here, there's one indicator with a bit of a question mark next to it, or a question mark hiding it. And this is exactly the indicator which we're going to cover today, which we're going to unveil today. And the first thing to take away, it fits right into our market IQ indicators. And just to give you a quick one-line summary of what market IQ is all about. Market IQ is all about understanding your current market story. Or in other words, how did price end up where it is right now? Why is this important? Well, because if you don't understand how price ended up where it is right now, how can you possibly predict where it's going to be in the future? And of course, in trading, it is all about predicting where price will be in the future. It's all about predicting the future to some degree. All right, so we're going to talk about this question mark here on the right-hand side, which fits into our market IQ section. But before we do, let me quickly remind you what these other three indicators, liquidity IQ, volume IQ, and MA rush are all about, because that's going to be important for the fourth indicator here. So let's cover these real quick, and it's not going to take long. It's just going to be a bit of a review to bring everyone up to speed. All right, now starting with liquidity IQ. Now, what this indicator does, first of all, it is one of our market IQ indicators, and it specializes in unveiling key resistance, these greenish lines on the chart, and key support levels on your chart. And of course, these levels are important for any trader because price may react to these levels in a very special way. For example, price, when approaching support, may, when other things come together, may bounce off a support level towards the middle, in between support and resistance. You can see it here. Price came down and then went up. Price came down and then pivoted up, down and up again. And sometimes, like up here, these levels are also broken. And when this happens, new things come into play. For example, in that case, one could trade the breakout trade, where we would anticipate, okay, now that this level has been broken, we have clear skies ahead, basically, and price is going to continue in the direction of the breakout for quite some time. So this is what this indicator specializes on. It will find these key resistance and these key support levels on your chart. And as you can see, these are, of course, important for forecasting what may be in the future and how price may react to these levels moving into the future. And the beautiful thing about this indicator is that it doesn't draw these levels after the fact, like after the fact that we knew that price would bounce. That would be cheating. These levels are drawn as soon as they are detected, and they will stay where they are. Okay, so this indicator does not repaint as some indicators do repaint, and of course that's a bit of a form of cheating. This indicator keeps the levels exactly where they are. It is also it's also a multi-time frame indicator, meaning that even though, let's say, these levels are displayed on a 5-minute chart, for example, the levels might have been taken from a 15-minute chart or perhaps a 30-minute chart or maybe a daily chart even. So it looks at multiple higher time frames to find these levels. And the idea is that the more you zoom out, the more important these levels get. Now, the higher time frames tend to have more significant levels. All right, so this is Liquidity IQ, finding your key support and resistance levels. Secondly, let's move on to Volume IQ. Now, Volume IQ highlights to you on the right-hand side of your price chart. So it's not really a traditional volume indicator, which is printed underneath the bars. Volume IQ is a volume profile indicator on the right-hand side of your price chart, showing you which regions of price are the most heavily traded one and which regions of price are perhaps the least heavily traded one. This is important to understand because these can act as accelerators or decelerators of price. An example, folks, here is if price, for example, would go down into this big volume node. You see this big node here? It's most likely to slow down and even bounce. It may even bounce off this level towards higher price levels because these can also act as dynamic support and resistance, depending on where price approaches these levels. Conversely, when price enters into these lower volume nodes, you can see this trough here, price may even accelerate and power through these levels very quickly. And all this information can be read and seen and observed from our Volume IQ indicator, printed on the right-hand side of your chart. For example, it shows you where is the zone of control, the highest volume node, like the biggest node of this volume profile. Is there a bias towards sellers or buyers? At a certain price levels? What is the overall trend doing? And do we have high volume nodes and perhaps low volume nodes where price may accelerate through? All right, so that's Volume IQ. And we have one more Market IQ indicator, which is called MA Rush. Kind of has a strange name, MA Rush. It doesn't have the IQ in the end. This is for historical reasons. Maybe one day we're going to rename it. Who knows? But MA Rush was developed way before and we got into the entire ecosystem of Market IQ. What MA-Rush does, it is basically our trend indicator. It also considers higher time frames. In fact, it uses multiple time frames to establish a trend. And once trend is established, it will print out to you directly on the price chart whether we are bearish, it's this little label here, or whether we are bullish. And oftentimes, and many of our users, and so do we, in fact, we use this information is our filter. For example, we would only go long if at the same time MA Rush, this indicator here, is also bullish. Or perhaps we would only go short if MA Rush is also bearish at the same time. And conversely, let's say we have a short setup somewhere in here, we probably would skip it. Why? Because MA Rush is bullish and this would be a conflicting signal. All right, so this is MA Rush and yeah, it's really easy to apply. There's not many settings that come with it. One setting is called noise filtering, determining how frequent we want MA Rush to change its opinion. We typically just use the default settings, which makes MA Rush very conservative by design, meaning it will only change its mind when there is overwhelming evidence that a trend change has actually occurred. So for example, here we are bullish, a bit of a retracement here, a bit of a pullback here. MA Rush stays bullish all the way until this point here where we had overwhelming evidence that, hey, this trend has come to an end and now it's time to look at bearish setups. Okay, so why am I talking about these three indicators? Well, because they will help us to understand what is the current market story, especially when combined. Here an example. So what do we see here? Well, we can see that MA Rush, we can see this bearish label here shows us, hey, we are bearish. The trend is going downwards. We can also see that, okay, we do have a couple of important levels here as per our liquidity IQ indicator. For example, we have a support level down here. You can see this orange line or even down here. And there is a resistance level right here forming. Okay, so price right now is somewhat in the middle, in between support and resistance. And thirdly, we can see, okay, price is just underneath this zone of control. You can see this little this box here, this big box with the number 2 in there. We call it a level tier 2 zone, which is a label for our zone of control, the highest volume node of our volume profile indicator. So how could we then now interpret this story? Well, one way to look at it is, for example, hey, we are bearish. We came up from the support level here. So price bounced off nicely from the support level, came all the way up to the swing point, formed a new resistance level. We broke below the zone of control. Now, at least this would be my interpretation, price may continue its downwards move because we are bearish anyways. This was just a retracement within a bearish trend, because these pullbacks are very common within any trend. And now it's time for another leg further down. So understanding what the market story is obviously very important to try to forecast of where we might go next. All right. So now, of course, this was a bit of a background on these three indicators. Now let's see how this fourth indicator, the big moment, what we've all been waiting for, how does this indicator fit into our market IQ ecosystem? Well, and before I get there, let me give you a bit of context. So we have been using our market IQ indicators extensively for both finding swing trades, but also for day trades. And for this, just to make my life easier, I set up all kinds of alerts based on these individual indicators. And this was fine, but the problem was I just got way too many. There were too many alerts, and too many of them, they give me something where not everything was lining up. We maybe have one alert where price may, approach a support level, maybe a potential long trade because it's supporting, maybe bouncing off this level, but the trend was bearish. So two conflicting things. I wouldn't really trade this one. And I thought, there should be something better. Wouldn't it be cool if I could kind of refine my alerts a bit further and being able to focus on the alerts that really mattered, where really many things are coming together? Because to me, these would be the more promising setups and the more noteworthy headlines. All right, so this gives you a first clue of what this is going to be all about. What are the headlines? All right, so what is underlined here? Well, first of all, two things. First is the word R. R means something right now in this moment. What is interesting right now, this second in the market? We don't really worry about what happened in the past. That's important too. But these headlines is what is happening right now, this second. Like a newspaper with a breaking news coming out. This is about what's happening right now in the world. Well, these headlines, what's going to come up is about what's going to be happening right now on your chart. Is there something of interest right now? And I also underlined the word S here because the idea is, I'm going to show you, is to apply it to multiple symbols because it's going to be quite rare. So I'm not going to have a headline every second on every symbol. It's going to be selective, but when applied to multiple symbols, chances are you will get a bunch of them every single trading day, maybe even more, depending on how big your universe of symbols is. All right, so here's some examples. Wouldn't it be cool if we had something like this where we have breaking news coming in, a big headline coming in for something called like a long power bounce. It's kind of a bounce, a setup where we're bouncing off support, but there's more to it. Not just as, price approaching a support level, multiple things are adding up to it. They're coming together, supporting this bounce setup. We call this the power bounce. For example, on the symbol here, on the NASDAQ, micro NASDAQ futures on the 50-minute time frame. I just made this up. Or, for example, wouldn't it be cool if we had perhaps a short power break where a level is broken. We talked about the zone break setup where an important level is broken and confirmed by, let's say, trend direction, maybe the zone of control of our volume profile indicator and other things. And for example, we had such a zone break. I'm just, I put this rather exotic symbol here on soybean oil futures, ZS, on the 50-minute time frame. This was an alert, our new indicator coming in a bit earlier today. In fact, I believe around 11 o'clock or something, alerting us. Okay, on soybean futures, we did have a big break of this key support level with multiple things lining up. With the trend, for example, being bearish and price feeling pressure from this zone of control of our volume IQ indicator just above. So multiple things coming together, confirming the same setup. And so I was alerted of the setup, and I in fact took this trade. I even closed it out already with a decent profit. Why did I close it out? I do believe this symbol will go further down. I closed it out because this market actually closed. It closed at 2:20 p.m. Eastern for 6-7 hours. I didn't want to stay in that trade while the market is closed, so I closed it. I went flat, but should the setup still be alive when the market reopens at 8 p.m., maybe I'm going to re-engage because I really like the way this is forming up. All right, so without further ado, let me introduce to you our new indicator. And Arthur, yes, this is being recorded. Yeah. Let me introduce to you our 1IQ indicator. You can see it here on the right-hand side. 1IQ is one of our market IQ indicators complementing all of the other ones, liquidity IQ, volume IQ, and ME-Rush, by focusing on what are really breaking news right now, getting you notified when really significant events occur, when multiple things are coming together, supporting one single trade direction. We call this confluence in the world of trading. Now the stars are aligning, multiple things are coming together. To us, these are the really noteworthy events. And for me, at least, and my trading, the last couple of weeks where we were testing this indicator, it has made a significant difference in my trade quality and also in my, me spending time on the charts. We all have busy lives. Perhaps we only want to focus on the most significant events. This is what 1IQ will give you. So we call this the headline indicator, the breaking news indicator, because it will show you directly on your price chart, hey, what is the current headline? And if, in terms of trend, in terms of pressure, this is our volume IQ measure, and in terms of level. And one more thing, whether there is a second line of defense. We're going to talk about this in just a bit. And if everything lines up, it will flag even to us on the price chart which setup is currently present, if there's. And most importantly, you will be able to be alerted when this happens. Of course, we don't want to look at price charts all day long. In the off chance, hey, we're going to have one of these key setups, you want to be alerted when this happens, or you want to be able to scan for these setups, perhaps across hundreds of different symbols. This is all possible with this 1IQ indicator. Now, we're going to go to the price chart in just a bit, but before we do, let me explain to you a little bit more of what we consider a noteworthy headline, an important headline. So some of the drivers that would come into our formula. First off, the first thing is more like an understanding thing. Support and resistance come in many different forms. So what do I mean by this? I'm going to get back to the slide in a second. Well, first off, and you probably have heard this before, support can become resistance and resistance can become support. So is it all the same? Well, almost. Here's an example. Look at this. What do we see here? Support down here is broken by price. You can see price went below this red line. That's the support level. Price broke it. And from this point on, you can see the price is coming back up to this level, but can't go any further high. And here again, from this point on, support will be acting as resistance. So it's kind of the same. Support becomes resistance if broken. And really what matters is our first key takeaway. What really matters is from which direction price is approaching this level. If we are approaching the support level from the top, you can see it here, then it will act as support. If we are approaching it from the bottom, it first of all means it must have been broken before. So if you're coming up from the bottom to the top, then this level will be acting as resistance. So this is what really matters. From which price direction are we approaching this level? Please keep this in mind. And the same for resistance. When resistance is broken, let's see here, price came up to this resistance level. It didn't hold up. It broke. Price came above this level. From this point on, it's the same equation. It really depends on from where price is approaching this level. Are we coming from the top? It means this will act as support. Are we coming from the bottom? It may act as resistance. So this is what really matters, from which direction price is approaching a key level. Please keep this in mind. That's going to become important because from now on, we're just going to be talking, at least for the context of this, our new indicator, we're just going to be talking about key levels and from which direction price is approaching this level. Okay, so these are levels which are identified for us by our Liquidity IQ indicator. But of course, support and resistance can also come through our Volume IQ indicator, or we can find it through our Volume IQ indicator. For example, here, we can see here this big high volume node. Oftentimes, and it really depends on where price comes to this level also can act as support or resistance. I mentioned this before. These high volume nodes are highly contested price levels. There's lots of stuff going on. It's contested, lots of action going on there. In fact, it's the price level with the most action. And oftentimes it will act as dynamic support or resistance, depending on from where price approaches this level. Please keep this in mind as well. It will become important for our OneIQ indicator in just a bit. All right. Now, secondly, trade with trend. Okay, I mentioned this many times in previous webinars. Your setup will improve if we trade in the direction of the overarching trend. So, for example, here, if we have a short setup in mind because we're breaking through this level of support and the trend is bearish, while two things are confirming the same setup, it will improve the odds of this being a successful trade. And conversely here, if we had a long trade in mind when this zone was broken and the trend is also bullish, this simply confirms this setup. So something nice to have. And thirdly, and this is something new, so this I guess was what I just mentioned was a bit of a repetition. The third thing is something we discovered also as important for further increasing the chance of having a successful trade, which is having a second layer of defense. Sounds cryptic. We're not in soccer here or American football, whatever it might be. No, this is for trading. But what do we mean by that? All right, let me explain it to you. And I think it's best explained by simply looking at the price chart. So what do we see here? Well, first off, we can see, okay, the trend is bearish. Just take it from me. The trend is coming down. MA-Rush has a bearish read on this one. Secondly, we can see that this support level was broken. Then price came back up to this support level. And remember what I said. It really matters from where price comes to a level. So price here now is coming from below to this level. And as such, this level will act as what? As resistance, because we're coming from below. Okay, so when we think, okay, nice short trade setup, but there's one more thing which further supports this setup. Look at this high volume node here, this zone of control for our Volume IQ indicator. This one will act as our second line of defense, a second layer of resistance, because we're coming from below to this level, supporting our potential short trade. This is what we mean by having a second line of defense. We want to have two resistance areas lining up, supporting the same trade. Because if one fails, we still have the other one taking care of business for us. This is our second line of defense. Here, another example. Look at this. What do we see here? Well, price pushed above this zone of control. You see this high volume node here? Price came above it. We cleared it. We went above this level. We could say, okay, nice breakout trade. We broke above the zone of control. Okay, let's see if other factors also are lining up. Well, our trend is bullish, which is good. And we can see a second line of defense being in place right here by the support level. can see this red line here, right below price. Once again, 2 lines of defense in place, supporting the same price move. So if one fails, should price come below our zone of control, we still have our support level from Liquidity IQ as our second line of defense. This can really make a big difference. Now, based on these principles, we're going to get to the chart in just a second. Based on these principles, we have come up with 4 key setups, which are based on the principle of confluence, where multiple things need to be lining up. So the first one is called the long power bounce. Okay, what do we mean by this? That's a spectacular name. What is required for this setup to come together? First off, the trend needs to be up, because that's a long setup. We want the trend to be bullish, first off. Secondly, we want price to pull back to approach a key level or a key zone from above. Remember, this is all what we care about, whether to determine whether it's support or resistance. We want a key level or a key zone to act as support. As such, price need to be approaching this level from above, not from below. And thirdly, a second line of defense needs to be in place. Here's an example. So for this one here, long power bounce. Look at this chart here, which is a Bitcoin chart on the 30-minute time frame. And yes, this indicator will work on all asset classes and all time frames, no problem. So what do we see here? Well, trend is bullish. First condition is met. Secondly, we are approaching our zone of control. You see this big volume node here of our volume IQ indicator? Price is coming down to it. And thirdly, we have a second line of defense by means of this support level from our Liquidity IQ indicator. Well, everything lining up. The trend is bullish. We're coming down to support, and a second line of defense is in place. Great long setup. All right, so this is our long power bounce. Oops, and I made a small typo here. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to quickly fix this one here. This should be short power bounce, of course. That happens. Short power bounce is basically the opposite of what I've just shown you. So what's a short power bounce? Well, it's kind of the opposite. Trend is bearish. Believe me, the trend is bearish in this case. So MA-Rush is bearish. We are coming up to a resistance level. Why resistance in this case? Because we're coming from below. And then this level here, this red level, is acting as resistance. And right above, we have the zone of control acting as our second line of defense. Great setup, short power bounce on ZS on the 30-minute time frame. All right, so these are our bounce setups, but we also have the breakout setups to the long and the short direction. How do these work? Let's look at the first one here, the long power breakout. What does need to come together here? Let me show you. Here's an example. Well, what do we see? First off, we are bullish. That's a long play. We want to have bullish trend to confirm this. Done. Secondly, we can just see price broke above this zone of control of our volume IQ indicator. That's a breakout. We broke this level. We cleared this level. That's a breakout to the upside. And thirdly, our second line of defense is in place by means of having this support level, this reddish line here, right underneath the zone of control. Once again, 2 lines of defense in place along with bullish trend. That's a powerful setup. And then conversely, the same for the short side. Short power breakout. The trend is down. Bearish trend. MA-Rush is bearish in this case. You can take my word for it. We just lost a key support level, and not far away, this is a bit zoomed out here, not far away, we do have our zone of control of our volume IQ indicator. Once again, 2 lines of defense or support level, broken support level here, and we're feeling pressure from this zone of control just above, pressuring price further downwards. Once again, 2 lines of defense in place, supporting this short setup, along with having a bearish trend to begin with. All right, now, without further ado, guys, lots of theory so far. Now let's get practical. So let's check out this indicator live in action onto the charts. So for this, I'm going to invite Niklas onto the stage. Niklas, are you there?
Hi, yeah, I'm good to go.
How are you, Niklas? Okay,
Good,
perfect.
yourself?
Yes, very good. I'm going to hide my camera picture so you guys can focus on what Niklas has to show us. And Niklas, please take it away.
Sure. Okay. And is my Zoom stuff blocking anything here, Daniel?
No, looks great. Just make it full screen. If you, oh, 1 second, it's full screen. It's perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Okay. Hello, everybody. So now let's take a look at the indicator itself. And I'm going to start off with none of our indicators on the chart here. And we'll just begin with 1IQ. So 1IQ has very simple visuals, at least for its application to a chart. So it starts out, you've just got this table, and we're going to get into what's the real power of this indicator as we go through it. So like Daniel mentioned, you're given some information immediately. Just turn off this crosshair with the market headlines. So right now we read that trend is bearish. The buying or selling pressure is that we are inside currently a zone of control. So this is from Volume IQ. This information here, the bearish trend, is from MA Rush. And down here, it also tells us there's important levels nearby. So we can see it's colored with the bearish color here, same one up here, because right now there's no level beneath us, there's no support nearby, but above us there is a level, there's a resistance, 112. Finally, we can see that with respect to this level that's above us, this resistance, and we're going to get a nice visual of it in just a second, there's also some defense above that or nearby, which is a zone of control. And it's giving us this setup called a short power bounce. So this is a lot of information. Let's put on the other indicators that are actually coming up or giving the indicator 1IQ these conclusions. So the first, of course, like Daniel mentioned, is MA Rush. So the way that 1IQ works is it's got all of the ability to calculate these other indicators inside of it and figure out and find these setups that you can then scan for and make watch list alerts for. So no more checking on futures for when there's finally that short bounce setup that also has a volume IQ zone of control defending it, or that also has bearish or bullish MA Rush momentum. It's all going to be possible through this, and you'll see you can set an alert that will trigger across 500 different symbols, and you can scan for them as well. So these are, whoops, the wrong indicator. These are the settings in 1IQ. So we'll start up here. Actually, I can come down here. So I just mentioned that MA Rush and Liquidity IQ and Volume IQ are all being calculated inside this indicator to find these really powerful setups. So we can see right here, for example, I'm mentioning that, hey, MA Rush is bearish, and MA Rush happens to have the chart time frame as its reference time frame. And inside of 1IQ, I can set it to match whatever reference time frame I want. If I want to match up with MA Rush. So I'm on a 4-hour chart here. Maybe I want my setups to be based on the momentum from the daily. I can do that, just like in the individual indicators. And the same thing for Liquidity IQ. So Daniel and I, we usually trade on, let's say, the 5 or 15-minute trade time frame when we're day trading, and we'll usually set Liquidity IQ to a higher reference time frame, like the 30-minute or the 1 hour. So for us, and if you have a setup like that, I know most traders do set it to a higher time frame. That's what we generally recommend. That's totally possible. So however you have those individual indicators configured on your end, and the setups you look for, like bounces, etc., you can configure them just like that in here. And you've also got these other settings like from Volume IQ, the number of levels, so on and so forth. So that was MA Rush. Now Volume IQ. When we turn on Volume IQ, we'll see the information that we got here. So the information the indicator is telling us, 1IQ, is it told us we're inside the zone of control. We can see that's the case. We're inside the zone of control. It then tells us there's a level above us at 112. So if I turn on Liquidity IQ, we're going to see that there's a level. What's current price? 112.22. It's going to be right above us. So this is why we got this setup. Let's zoom in here. This is a high probability short trade setup that we would normally take on our own time trading. Perhaps not on this time frame, but this is a classic setup. If you've seen any of our live trading, we do this all the time. MA Rush is bearish. Trend is bearish. Pressure, right now, this isn't relevant. That's why it's white. It's neutral. We're inside the zone of control. But what's important is above us is a resistance. We're right at this resistance level that you can kind of see right here. We're in this resistance zone between 112.7 and 112.8. So right above us, there's resistance. And the next thing that comes in is that second line of defense that makes the setup higher probability, which is above that resistance, there is a zone of control. So not only are we at resistance, with a bearish momentum, which would be a high probability short bounce trade, we also have volume IQ backing up that information with a zone of control. This is a really rare setup, and we're going to see this is why it's really powerful to have these alerts, because you don't have to go scanning for them as much anymore. And let me just check right here to see if I got any alerts during the webinar. Nope. But here, so that's a short power bounce. So it's not just a short bounce, it's got extra power added into it. And this is a current setup right now. Now, there's a lot of different settings. We're not going to go through all of them. We're going to keep it, on the surface a little bit here, but they're very intuitive. So for example, to get this setup right here, we had three things come into play, which is the perfect setup. We're bearish momentum, we are at resistance, and there's a zone of control above price. But maybe you don't trade with volume IQ and you don't care if there is a zone of control above or not. Well, we added options into this to make all the alerts customizable. So if you don't care about zones of control being a condition, you could just set it to no. If you don't care, maybe you only want to trade based on a volume IQ. Maybe you don't like liquidity IQ or you don't use it, or you don't want it for this time frame you're trading on. Whatever the reason may be, we of course suggest using all of them at once. You can turn off use liquidity levels as well, and you can basically snap them on and off. Maybe you actually, I think the main reason to turn them off would maybe you want to get more alerts and have less strict setups. So you can do that. You can also turn off whether or not you care if the trend is bearish or bullish. You can also say whether or not you need that second line of defense. So if you set this to no, it's not going to matter whether there is a zone of control above the level or vice versa. It's just going to see, okay, we're at least a liquidity level or we're at the zone of control. Now it's time to come up with a setup. So you can see I turned off require second line of defense, and it says not applicable anymore. All right. And the other thing you can do is maybe, and this is for your alerts, if you want to know that the alert just came in, the setup recency is going to be 1 bar. If you want to get an alert, maybe there was a setup 5 bars ago, you can increase that so that perhaps you could see more alerts or get more results in your scan. Now let's take a look at the alerts. So to start off, there are 5 different alerts. So let's come into the alerts here. And this is how you would set this up. This is how simple it is. So there's all these different setups. Actually, let me just take a moment here just so we could take a look at all of our different setups. So this was a short power breakout. This is, here's an example of a short power bounce. Let me just turn off mentor mode on liquidity IQ right here. So a short power bounce, like Daniel mentioned, is when trend is bearish. We're coming up to some sort of liquidity level, an important level, and there's a zone of control above that level, adding more resistance. This is a short power bounce. We can see all that's happening here. The trend is bearish from MA Rush. Been bearish, since all the way back there. This is on a stock on a daily chart. And the pressure is, there's a zone of control above us. The level, there's no level below. There's a level above us, this resistance level, and that defense is the zone of control. This is a short power bounce setup. And I know Daniel has already gone over these. Let's try to find one where volume IQ is the instigator, the creator of the initial signal. So here's one. I'm just going to make my table bigger here, setting that to large. So we can see here the last 2 ones we looked at, it was based on a liquidity level first, right? And then the defense was always that there is a volume IQ zone of control. On this chart here, it's a little bit different. This is on 5-year T-note futures on a daily chart. What we can see here instead in this table is trend is bullish. The pressure, there's a zone of control just below us. There's support and resistance. We're in a magnet zone. This is neutral. There's resistance and support. But the defense now is that there's a level. So right now we are in an uptrend. We are just above this zone of control. We're coming down to it. It's a red candle. That's why it's registering as a bounce. And the defense is, hey, beneath that, we still have support. So it's another one of these perfect setups just mixed together differently. And finally, now I'm going to show the alerts, and then we're going to hop into showing the scanning after we do the alerts. But let's take some time on this. Let me just move this out of the way. Okay, so it's really simple. So in TradingView that you can create your own watch list. So for example, I have a futures day trading watch list here. I could use, all 500 S&P stocks, so on and so forth. So I have all these different futures. What I can do now is come up to alert here and go into condition, or actually symbols, select my watch list, futures day trading. And in condition, I'll just click on 1IQ. And I can now say, okay, maybe actually day trading on futures. I want to get my alerts on the 5-minute chart. once per bar if they happen. And what kind of alert do we want? Well, we can get alerts for any of these setups. Long power bounce. Maybe you want to know if there's a short power bounce, long power breakout, short power breakout, or any alert. When you click this, you're going to get an alert whenever any of these setups happen. And if you have a simpler version of one of the lower tiers of the TradingView subscription, you're going to have a limit for the amount of watch list alerts you can do. So this is super useful. You can get any alert. It's not like with our other indicators where then you have to set up a bunch of conditions, or here you can add conditions. With this, everything is put into one. And there's a setting inside of the indicator here. So let's say I click create. Now, if any of these setups happen, I am going to have that any alert on my futures day trading watch list. On any of those symbols, if this pops up, I'm going to be told. Inside of the indicator, what you can do before you create that alert as well, and I just had a nice idea, which I'll point out in a second, and I'll add after this webinar, so that'll be inside the version you get, is down here, we have a feature called Alerts Allowed. So maybe you're not a short trader. Maybe you're a long trader only. You can, what's nice about this, actually, I didn't even think about this, is if you're a swing trader too, you can set this on like the whole S&P 500, an alert on a daily chart. And maybe you only want to go long. You can say long only. You're only going to get alerts when there's a long power bounce or a long power break. And what I realized just now looking at this is I'm just going to create an alert in here that is called any long alert or any short alert. I think that makes it a lot more simple. So these are the different setups. I'm going to move, Daniel, unless you want to say something.
No, it's fantastic. And you know why we are having put so much thought into these alerts is because we want to cater to anyone everybody with different TradingView subscriptions. So not everyone has the ultimate package as we do, where we can have multiple watch list alerts. This is why we create any alert. And even if you don't even have watch list alerts at all, you can still use the same principle to just individually define your alerts for each symbol you're interested in. So there's always going to be a workaround for this, no matter what your TradingView subscription is.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah.
So the next big thing, and which I use to find these examples really quickly, because of course alerts, they might not come every minute, is you can also use, when you purchase this indicator, you're going to get two indicators actually. One is called OneIQ, and the other one is called OneIQ Scanner. So this is the one you use with the TradingView screener. Now in here, it's still the beta version of the TradingView screener. So you know, it has its quirks, but it's working really quite well with OneIQ. So what I'm able to do here, this is great, especially for swing trading. I think for day traders, the most utility comes out of these alerts. Like I've been using these, and Daniel has been using these the past week or so, and it just gives like all the perfect setups that we look for, and we don't have to think about them. You just get an alert on your phone, and then you check the chart. So it really saves a lot of time. Now, what you would do is you come into the screener up here, in products, screeners, high and beta. And actually what I forgot to mention is the first thing you need to do once you get this invite only indicator called OneIQ Scanner, you want to come here and hit this little favorite icon, add to favorites. Once you do that, it's going to be visible inside of the Pine screener. So if I refresh my page here now, it's in my favorites. I can come to choose indicator, select OneIQ Scanner. And once this loads, it defaults to the 1 day time frame. You can change the time frame. I'm going to leave it on the 1 day. So imagine you're a swing trader. What you could do then is select one of your watch lists. So S&P 500. I select that. I got 501 symbols. Now all I have to do is hit scan. And this might take, because it's calculating all three of those indicators and a lot more on each of these 500 symbols. It might take about 15, 20 seconds, something along those lines.
It's still pretty crazy how fast it is. For
a
live scan like this, yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's great. It's honestly, TradingView is amazing. And here, I've enabled now all my columns over here. Now I can see which of these symbols has one of these perfect setups. So I can sort. Or can I sort here? Anyways, I can scroll at least. I think they're in the middle of making some changes to the beta screener because you were able to sort a couple days ago. But for example, I can scroll down here now. Let me just scroll quick and look for something. See if we have any breakouts, perhaps. Do we have any breakouts? What's this? So on Hubble Inc., we have a long power breakout and a long power bounce. Well, we're going to see on the chart that the breakout is the one that supersedes the bounce, but it's telling you that there's an interpretation possible for both of these. So let's take a look at the chart right here. So let me find my daily chart right here. And CPB right here, I actually found that setup from the scanner. So let's see. Long power breakout. So why did this happen? Well, what's going on here on the chart? Number one, we have got, wow, very long term. Holy, very long term. This is since 2020. Wow, that's a huge symbol. Bullish trend, clearly. We also had a break through either what makes a breakout in 1IQ, a breakout through a zone of control, or an important liquidity level. Now, just like in liquidity IQ, a break through a level, like here, the midpoint of the zone of control is defined as the low of the candle crossing above it. So even though this candle opened up higher and came down today, it's a down candle. Technically, we gapped up over this zone of control. We broke through it. We have a long power breakout. Why is it a power breakout? Well, not only was there a break through this level that it come down and lost it, now it's breaking back up through it, but we have some line of defense here. We can see here, defense is below, and there's a level. That's this support down here. The support below at 403.82. So we got a result in our scan for this setup. I'm not crazy in love with this setup. Of course, you have to use your judgment, but let's take a look at some other ones here. And the reason being that we're pretty far away from that support, and there's a lot of volatility, which is why it's considering this to be nearby, but still a nice setup. Let's see here, Home Depot, long power bounce. What's that? Okay, so we can see, even though we're in a trend here, it looks like we're almost going into bearish trend. We are bullish. We are inside of the zone of control. We're coming down into an important zone of control. And below us is the defense of this support level right down here. This is a long power bounce, technically. Again, right here, where would we put if we were to trade this? And right here, actually, there's an old liquidity level right here. And this is a good time to point out one feature, which is, if you're aware, let's take a look 1 second for a bounce where maybe we have a liquidity capture. I'll do it right here, actually. We can do it. So you know that oftentimes when we do bounce trades, what we tend to recommend is to wait for a liquidity capture because it shows that the level isn't breaking so easily. What we can actually do is then require liquidity capture, and then say how recent do we want a liquidity capture to be. Maybe just for illustrative purposes, I'll say as long as there was a liquidity capture within 3 bars, then I want to know about this bounce. Let me make sure I didn't click cancel there. No, apply. Now we just hit rescan again, and we're actually going to get better filtered, or at least by our theory and our experience, better filtered bounce setups that are combined with a liquidity capture.
And while we're scanning the Nicholas, just quickly pointing out here, we have planned a masterclass or / boot camp on this indicator. So if this goes a bit fast now on how we set everything up, nothing to worry about. This masterclass will cover all of it. Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, let me see now. And this is rare, of course, to have all of this stuff come together with a liquidity capture. 1 second. I'm just trying to get a hold of this bar here. It's very difficult.
It's finicky.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. There we go. Okay, so CDNS. All right, let's see if this worked. CDNS. Let's see what we've got on Cadence Design Systems. So what we should see is bullish trend coming down to some sort of level that has defense, and there's a liquidity capture. That's what's happening. So what's current price right now? Current price is 313. Okay, so it's referencing. Oh, this is tricky. We had a liquidity capture. We're at a reference. Beneath us is another support level right down here, and there is defense. Okay, so the zone of control is. This is actually something maybe we can Daniel, I can clarify because I just noticed here I looked for a liquidity capture 3 bars ago. Technically, there was one.
I like it. No, it's a great example, Nicholas. Actually, I think keep this on for a second and go back to the chart, please, because I'm going to take the screen back here in a second, but because we got the question coming in, hey, does this indicator replace liquidity IQ or volume IQ or MA rush? And the answer to this actually is exemplified perfectly by this example here, because absolutely not. Even though you get this alert, there is still due diligence needed for you to further qualify it to make sure, hey, is this actually valid? And this is a great example for this because here, perhaps not all conditions are coming up perfectly together. Nonetheless, it will only alert you of these very rare cases, and then you can look at the individual indicators to then really make a decision. Perfect.
Yeah, so and this is still a very valid setup. The zone of control is, it's true. The zone of control is below. We're coming down towards this important level. The trend is bullish, and there's a second line of defense, the support right under it. This is a strong bounce setup. We were just pointing out that this liquidity capture that we looked for happened on a previous level that now we have gone through. So Daniel, did you want to take the screen back?
Yeah, I'm going to take it back. Thanks, Niklas, for this great demo.
My pleasure.
Yeah, let me summarize basically what we have seen so far. So first off, you now know what this question mark was standing for. It stands for 1IQ, our brand new indicator focusing on the most important headlines when it comes to trading, when it comes to interpreting or finding interesting setups using our market IQ indicators. Now, and thanks for whoever asked that question. The question came in, do I still need MA Rush, Liquidity IQ, or Volume IQ if I have 1IQ? And the answer is very simple. There's also no second opinion about this. Yes, absolutely, you do need it. And here's why. Let me explain it to you real quick, because this is important. Now, what does 1IQ bring to the table? So I'm going to focus on 1IQ first, and I'm going to put this into relation. Well, it gives you an instant read of the market conditions in this very moment in terms of trend, key levels, pressure, and trade setups. And based on that, you can also get these composite alerts, which go beyond, putting together individual alerts on MA Rush, Liquidity IQ, and Volume IQ. So this is, I mean, the alerts is probably to me at least, the most important part here is that you will be alerted when these rare setups pop up, either as a day trader or as a swing trader. And you can scan for these rare setups as well. So you get alerts and scans, and you get this instant headline, what's going on right now in that particular market. But what it doesn't do, and this is also important to understand, so you can put this all into relation. What it doesn't do, it will not show you what exactly is going on with the trend. How long has this bullish trend been going on, for example? Is this a long-term bullish trend, or maybe just one that just started 2 bars ago? We don't know how strong the trend is. We don't know what are the average levels of that trend. Are we very extended right now, perhaps, right at the mean? You will not get this. This will be given to you by MA Rush. And you will need MA Rush for this. It will also not display you all the different levels which would come into Liquidity IQ. It will show you if there's a level nearby, but that's just really one small part of the story when it comes to liquidity levels. You don't know where there are other levels. Is there perhaps a cluster of levels? How many levels are there above you or below you? Is the level we just broke perhaps the highest level and we have clear skies ahead? You will not get this information. This is where Liquidity IQ comes in, because it will give you all this context. And thirdly, you will also not see what is the directional bias at certain price levels. Are there more buyers at a certain level, or perhaps more sellers? Where are the low volume nodes positioned? The tier 1 action zones, as we call them. And where are there any secondary high volume nodes nearby? Right now, only the zone of control is considered. If you want this insight, you will need Volume IQ. Now, in summary, what do we have right now? Well, 1IQ will tell you what the headline is of what just happened. What is the current headline? Did something of important happens? But MA Rush, Liquidity IQ, and Volume IQ, they will tell you of whether this headline actually mattered and how to trade it. For example, exits. 1IQ may give you a nice trade setup, but how do you time your exit? Where do you get out of the trade, which is just as important? Well, for this, you will still need to analyze what is the entire market story, where are all these key levels to time your exit perfectly. Now, there's a lot of information here, but let me just give you an example of how this can all work together. Well, let's say you have your alerts set up for 1IQ. Perfect. You have all your alerts set up, an alert comes in. TradingView pops up an alert on your cell phone as a push notification. Okay, some interesting alert just came up. You will then need to open up your price chart to see, okay, how does this alert line up with all the other components of the market story, the other key levels, the overall trend? How long did the trend last? Did we just swap trends? How far are we away from the average price move? Where is the key volume? Where are low volume nodes? This is all needed to confirm your entry and to plan out your trade. When I say planning out your trade, I'm talking exits. Getting into a trade is one thing of the story. Once you're in a trade, you need to manage it and you need to find your exit. It's just as important. Now, before we get into overtime here, let me explain to you how everyone in the room today can get hold of this brand new indicator called OneIQ. So we do have a special offer available. Now, we will offer OneIQ for a lifetime license of $9.97. That's the regular price for OneIQ. And it is for that indicator, which will scan and alert you and notify you when these breaking news are coming in, when these real headlines are coming in. So, but first off, as a holiday special, of course, we are in the holiday spirit. Christmas is just around the corner. Some other holidays are around the corner. We will add 3 bonuses to our offer as well. And the first one is an invitation to our next live trading workshop scheduled for the beginning of the next year. Of course, next week is Christmas already. Markets will slow down. We're going to have our next live trading workshop on January the 8th. And in this live trading workshop, we will show you how we will use the alerts coming in to live trade the futures market and even some stocks. That will be using our Live Money account. No question about this. Bonus number 2, if you're not part of our exclusive member session yet, you will be invited to our weekly member session called Lunch and Learn. And our next one is scheduled for next Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And guess what? A big focus of that Lunch and Learn session will be this new indicator. So you will be invited to all these sessions, which will happen every single week on Tuesday at 12 p.m. And of course, both these webinars are also recorded. So should you miss it, no problem. You can always watch the recording afterwards. And thirdly, we are planning a masterclass on OneIQ, explaining you every single setting of this indicator, how it works, how you can define your alerts, your scans, and so forth. Now, since we are in the holiday spirit, we do have an even better offer for you. Instead of $9.97, which will be the regular price, we decided to slash down the price by $400 and offering OneIQ only for $5.97. This is a limited time offer. It will go away. The price will go back to its normal, but for a limited time, it will only be $5.97. And all you need to do, and Niklas, please put the link into the chat. All you need to do is to go to tradingindicators.com/one and enter the coupon code holiday. So tradingindicators.com/one, coupon code holiday. And this will slash
I'm getting
down
that
the
up
price.
into the chat in just a second, Daniel.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. So this will bring down the price from $9.97 to only $5.97. And just a quick reminder, you will get, of course, our OneIQ indicator for life. No question about it. In addition to this, you will be invited to our next live trading workshop scheduled for January 8th at 9:30 a.m. Of course, we will use our Live Money account for this, and also to our exclusive Lunch and Learn sessions happening every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern time, the next one being scheduled right before Christmas on December 23rd. And there will be also a masterclass explaining to you how to configure, how to set up this indicator to be the missing piece in your trading arsenal. So once again, here is the offer. And don't forget to enter the coupon code holiday. All right. So now let me see if there are any questions coming in. All right. Let me just start with the first one here. Keith wants to know, which trading platforms does OneIQ work on? Right now, we only have it available for TradingView. It is likely that we will also convert it to NinjaTrader and possibly to MotiveWave. It's not done yet. You know what's going on with MotiveWave, all these issues ever since they switched to MotiveWave 7. We're going to wait a little bit until this is all stabilized, until that version is functioning perfectly before we attempt the conversion. But most likely there will be an NT8 version and a MotiveWave version as well, but a bit later in the new year. All right. Will this go into the swing trading dashboard? Gerald, maybe, but that's really far away. This is not something which we have attempted yet. As you can imagine, it's a whole different story to put this into a standalone dashboard rather than applying it to a trading platform. So perhaps, but there's definitely no timeline for this. Yeah. Okay. Can you get this indicator without having the other three indicators? Yes, you could get it. That's possible. It just will not give you the context that you need. So we at least recommend to have Liquidity IQ and MA on your chart as well to contextualize these setups a bit better. Ideally, of course, also Volume IQ. But in theory, this will work on its own and you will get these trade alerts. Yes. I read out 997. What? I'm not sure what your question is, Derek. Maybe I made a mistake, but it's 597. What good is this indicator of all the other IQ indicators? Well, honestly, having a trade setup is really one part of the story, but what you also need is to contextualize it. You can get this alert, but it needs to make sense in the end as well. So, good indicators can only go so far. They can give you a great trade signal, but you still need to contextualize it. Does it fit into the overall market paradigm? Well, there are some other levels. How does this chart look like? Yeah, this is a chart I would even would consider. And all these extra pieces, they really come in with MA Liquidity IQ, and Volume IQ. But nonetheless, there's value. I mean, if you're able to do these contextualizations on your own without these indicators, then yeah, it is possible. Kevin, how do I find the Pine scanner? Kevin, that's only available starting with a certain subscription of ModivWave. I'm not sure which one.
Of TradingView, you mean?
Oh, sorry, TradingView. Yeah, TradingView. Nicholas, do you know by heart which one that is?
No, I don't. I actually wasn't even aware that it requires a subscription.
Yeah, it can be. You can look it up, Kevin. I'm not sure which version of this is. I have Liquidity IQ and ME only. Will the coupon code work for Volume IQ too? No, it will not, Linda. But if you're, and this is for all of you, if you already have two of the indicators and also would like to add Volume IQ, send me a note afterwards, Linda, and we'll work something out. Vincent, that missed the beginning. Does this work with swing trading only? No, Vincent. In fact, the way I will be using it mostly is for day trading. Yeah, I've been. This has turned my day trading around. Mainly because now the alerts which we're getting, they are so pinpointed. And now, because it used to be when I get an alert, just another alert, because they come in every 10 minutes or so, I get a new alert. Who has the time to check them all out? But now with these selected alerts, and in fact, I should also say that in this case, it's really true what Aristotle said, that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Because what this indicator looks at when it comes to find these breaking news, these headlines, these key alerts, is not just not just look by putting three individual alerts together. It also looks at from which direction price approaches a level, whether there is a defense level in place, and so forth. This could not be done with the individual indicators because it requires the entire context. How much are the other indicators? Check out our homepage, tradingindicators.com. You'll see them listed there. They're Volume IQ, Liquidity IQ, and MA And Sam, maybe send me a message afterwards to walk you through it. Yeah, perfect. Okay, let me see if there are some other indications. Derek, I still didn't get your question there with the 997, but I believe this is all correct here. Tradingindicators.com/1, coupon code holiday for a limited time. You will get this indicator for only 597. All right. Just looking here. What about scans and alerts for ModivWave from Michael? Yeah, we'll have to see for ModivWave. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a kind of like a sick patient that we're dealing with ever since the migration to ModivWave 7. I know what happened there. It was a non-downwards compatible change by ModivWave, which has caused a couple of issues with a lot of clients all over the world. They are in the process of sorting this out from curing ModivWave. Once that's done, we're going to be all over it again. But for now, we're just going to wait until ModivWave 7 is completely stabilized. Keith, how many days should be learned on the chart for one IQ for it to work? I believe that's probably a question for NT8 or for Modif pretty much the same days as you would have for liquidity IQ and volume IQ. So we typically look for at least 500 to 1,000 bars for this. So nothing crazy to be loaded. So this should all be easily possible by your trading platform. Should not be a problem. But of course, if it's a brand new stock, which just IPO'd, for example, and only has like 5 bars, this is not sufficient. But for any of these symbols which are more established, which have been out there for quite some time, yeah, absolutely, this will work. So there's no restriction. All right. I can only trade from the daily. Will that work? Well, yes, Vincent. You mean the daily time frame? Yes, absolutely. In fact, we just showed some examples a bit early on. The recording will go out soon as well. If you want to double check this, where we use the scanner of TradingView to find some interesting setups on the daily time frame for some swing trading setups. Absolutely, yeah. I just said I probably will use it primarily for my day trading efforts, but not to say that this will also work, of course, for swing trading. Where do I send a message, Sa? Yes, that's a good question. So if there was a question which went unanswered, real quick, you can always reach out to us. I'm going to come back to the more questions in a bit. You can always reach out to us via our homepage, tradingindicators.com. Go there, click on support in the main menu, click on contact in there, and this will open up a contact form. Put your question there, and this one will go straight to my inbox, and I will answer every single question personally, either tonight if I have the energy, or otherwise tomorrow. So I'm going to come back on camera for just a second. All right. How long will the discount be available? For a couple of days until we reached our max numbers for this indicator. I don't really have an exact timeline when it will go away, but it's definitely a limited time offer. But I don't know. It depends how many people jump on it, and at some point we're gonna close it down. But I don't wait too long. But it will be available for a couple of days for sure. Okay, and Derek says he's figured it out. Great. Okay, perfect. Well, let me see if there are some other questions which I perhaps have missed. Let me just drag this in here. How many days? Mark, this question I don't understand. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think this will bring us to the conclusion of the session. So once again, this is our latest baby, so to say. At least it's I'm very happy with it. It has turned my trading around. I've seen it in the last couple of weeks how much more focused I have been by only being alerted of these key events and then checking the market story to qualify it. So I hope some of you will jump on this opportunity and also have the same trading success. And of course, yeah, we will continue innovating in 2026 as well. With this, guys, I wish you all a great holiday season with Christmas and all the other holidays just around the corner. Take some time off, spend time with your loved ones, recuperate, get more energy for the next year, because in 2026, of course, we will be back in full force. Here at Trading Indicators, we have big plans, as we always do for every single year. So we're so happy to have you all with us in our trading community. I wish you all the best for this time off. Protect your money, of course, during the off season. Make sure the markets are slow. Yeah, don't get too excited. They will restart really only in January next year. So be careful of this. And of course, take care of all of you. All right. And Kevin says he figured out the Pine Screener. Perfect. Excellent. All right, guys. With this, happy holidays. We have some some sessions still planned for this week in the next couple of days. We have our live scanning session on Saturday, and then our lunch and learn, as pointed out here, next Tuesday, where a big part of it will in fact be our new 1IQ indicator. All right. So with this, guys, have a great season. Talk to you soon. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye. Thanks, Niklas. Thanks, Omar.